The Pokemon community is wrong about everything. It's all lies, hypocrisy, and ignorance. Now I know it's a really big claim, but please watch this entire video because I can debunk every single argument about Pokemon accessibility because the Pokemon community has become that unwell. Also, please leave a like on this video and share it with everyone. Competitive Pokemon players are terrified. They know they're in the wrong. They are now cornered rats, and we need to keep the pressure on so something can be done to save Pokemon. Commenting helps in the algorithm, watching the entire video, but please, liking and sharing the video is the most important thing you can do. So what's going on now? Well, we have I'm a Blissey, someone who's a proven fraud, making another fraudulent video full of lies. Competitive Pokemon is pay to win if you don't cheat. That's just completely wrong. There is the $60 barrier game that you need to purchase to compete on, and that's it. It's not a $510 unfair advantage because you need to buy certain Pokemon games to get Pokemon. It's not against the rules to receive Pokemon from other people. It's also hypocrisy in this video because, like, the argument is, oh, well, the Pokemon company sent out an email saying to not get Pokemon from others, and then the video is making a Pokemon team to then give to another person for Worlds. So what it shows is, like, the VGC community is all cheaters, and that's why they're finally getting busted, and they just cannot cope that cheating is wrong, and they are being held accountable for cheating in their games. And the reaction has also been completely insane, that they are so emboldened, and the Pokemon Company International is so corrupt because Chris Brown, the director of esports, refuses to do anything about the cheating, that they're just admitting to cheating, and they're also telling people how to avoid the hack checks, you know, calling it a best of one gimmick with tons of players, countless players, getting disqualified at Worlds or having hacked Pokemon removed, and then admitting, like, oh, if I use this hacked Pokemon instead of this one, I would have gotten through the hack check. Now, I said Blissey has already been proven to be a fraud in the past, so let's get that out of the way. This is a comment from the video where he RNG manipulated to get Wolf's 2016 Worlds team, and this is so irresponsible. Like, that video is so irresponsible and so dishonest, because now people are saying, oh, Wolf didn't cheat, he just RNG'd his team. RNG manipulation did not exist for Generation 6 in 2016, admitted by Blissey right here. There were no RNG manips in Generation 6's lifetime. It was not discovered until after Sun and Moon's release. The entire premise of the video to make Wolf's 2016 Worlds team through RNGing is a lie, since it wasn't even possible, and Blissey deliberately excluded that fact from their video. And comments like this are the same kind of dishonest bad actor behavior. I don't know who needs to hear this, but VGC tournaments is probably no one's full-time job. You are not entitled to Pokemon, even competitive Pokemon, being a full-time job, even if you are the best competitive Pokemon player, especially because the scene has not deserved any of that since it's all cheating. And after seeing this tweet, I had my realization, I had the epiphany. The Pokemon community is realizing they destroyed themselves through ginning and entitlement, and they cannot cope. Pokemon is dead. Competitive Pokemon is dead. There has never been an instance in the history of games, sports, or esports where cheating makes a scene stronger. All corruption does, all cheating does, is destroy the scene. We have no competitive integrity. Every Poketuber, every influencer is a bad actor. We're also going to get into that as well. And that is why we're in this mess with Pokemon. Reducing the burden of cost on everyone is only a good thing. Don't tell the Pokemon VGC community that a Smash controller starts at $200 and goes over $400 if you want to be competitive, and it's not a one-time purchase that you have to maintain the controller because it's going to wear down from use, and you're going to need to get it regularly serviced for hundreds more dollars. Also, you need a backup controller just in case yours breaks or malfunctions during tournament, and that's before getting into the other mess of actually, like, getting Smash, even though everyone is illegally emulating the game to begin with. But if you want, like, a copy of the game and you want to play it on the Wii, that's also going to cost a lot of money. And that's the minimum that you need to do to be a Smash player. Reminder, the minimum for Pokemon is not a $510 investment. It's having one of the games. And that's why I showed this earlier in the video and why I said you need to watch everything, because One of the dumbest arguments I see in the Pokemon community is, well, chess doesn't make you carve all the pieces, therefore cheating is okay in Pokemon. It's not in the rules of chess that you need to carve all of your pieces. It's in the rules of Pokemon that no hacking, modding, ginning, or anything is allowed. Also, you would think, like, oh yeah, chess is also just one of the most accessible games, especially like competitive games in history. You just need a $10 chessboard and some free time to learn how the game works. This is where the ignorance comes into play, also the entitlement, just kind of making it to where no one in the Pokemon community understands anything about the real world or competition. So how much spent on becoming a chess grandmaster? Private coaching, 60,000 Australian dollars being the conservative estimate, but more likely to be $75,000. Also buying thousands of chess books and magazines, so that's $40,000 right there. And the Pokemon community is crying over the lie that it costs like $500 to get into competitive Pokemon, to get some Pokemon. Like, you're not even like gated from all the Pokemon and you need to spend that for just a couple of Pokemon that you may or may not use that may or may not be competitively viable. Okay, Urshifu's a big one, but even then, like, should have already had Pokemon Sword and Shield, and it's only a $30 DLC on top of that, and you get multiple save files. 26 million people bought Pokemon Sword and Shield. Millions of people also purchased the DLC. And again, you don't have to restart your save file to get another Urshifu. Yet the Pokemon VGC community could not get any legal Urshifu traded to them. That's not an accessibility problem. That's not the Pokemon company's problem or the tournament organizers. That's the community's fault. I would say reap what you sow, but the Pokemon community never planted anything to begin with. They just shat in a field until it became one of those pig farm runoff lakes, and they have to lie their way out of it. Like, that's not mine. I didn't make that. And that's why I had like another realization where it's like, all the cheaters in the Pokemon community know they're in the wrong. Their only out now is to lie and be dishonest and try to use like the combined weight of their influence to stack with the Pokemon company corruption to keep this ball of shit afloat. All the cheating, dishonesty, and toxicity is why no one wants to play competitive Pokemon. Like, this desperation is also creating a lot of hypocrisy that I've shown in the past, where there's simultaneously complaints about not enough people playing Pokemon, but praise that we're getting record-breaking events. However, those record-breaking events are offset by the millions of copies sold for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We have a record-shattering Pokemon game, but no more interest inside of Pokemon in a dead scene that's only lifted up by a couple thousand cheaters. Like, that's the only people playing Pokemon VGC when you have this many sales and this much history behind Pokemon. Largest franchise in the world, losing to Yu-Gi-Oh! And every other competitive sport or game. And that's really funny to see that the Pokemon VGC community just cannot cope and take accountability for their actions. So we're seeing really low registration caps for VGC, for the Pittsburgh event and Barcelona events, and everyone's crying about it. Why is the VGC cap 1/4 of the TCG cap? Well, everyone said they were going to boycott the upcoming season. Also, a lot of cheating issues. And as we've seen in the past with Pokemon VGC, the attendance plummets after the first year of the game. And that's not looking any better with VGC already being really dead, or competitive Pokemon being dead in general, and the massive cheating scandal that exposed a lot of problems inside of competitive Pokemon. So they're surprised that this is the result of all their actions? And there's still so much to talk about, because when I say the Pokemon community is wrong about everything, I mean everything. So this is the official Olympics website, and the Olympics have made a series called Day Jobs. Behind the glitz and glamour of the games, many world-class athletes must work around the clock to fund their Olympic dream. Most Olympic athletes have to work a job and then still put in unbelievable amounts of work to become a world-class competitor for the Olympics. This is the discipline that is missing from Pokemon. And again, like, the ignorance of not understanding how much people put into it. Because what you hear as an argument pro-cheating in Pokemon is that, oh, if you have kids, if you go to college, if you have a job, there's not enough time to get competitive Pokemon. It's actually impossible. And that's where you see thousands, tens of thousands of comments like this I guarantee you, everyone complaining about ginning has never built a team themselves. And the weird thing is, like, competitive Pokemon, it's easier to get a team now than ever, but the community considers it more impossible than ever for no reason, because, again, $500 is too much, even though you're spending thousands to compete. A lot of complaints like this. These worlds are a joke. Some of the top contenders disqualified on scores of 3-1 or 4-1. Victories and consequent disqualification for day 2 given away to lucky players. TPCI made players spend $3,000 on this. The Pokemon Company made no one pay anything. It was all optional if you wanted to fly out to Japan to compete or pay money to go through the regional circuit to earn enough championship points to make it to Worlds. And the reason why they're saying, like, oh, it's all luck, because it's the RNG of if you got caught or not, since 99% of the people competing at Worlds have genned Pokemon. Again, it's the weirdest open secret in Pokemon. All the competitors, they cheat, and they know everyone else is cheating, which is also why you don't see them pointing the finger at each other, because they can't, or else everyone gets disqualified, so they have to keep up this lie. But at the same time, since everyone's saying it's impossible otherwise, you have to cheat. But then there's denial of cheating, because it makes your scene look really bad if you just admit everyone's cheating. Again, hypocrisy, double standards, just complete nonsense. So all the competitive Pokemon and cheating arguments always fall apart, and even with like the expenses to fly out and compete and stuff, Pokemon is still one of the most accessible sports or esports when you get down into everything else. It takes way more work, money, and dedication to be an Olympic athlete or a chess grandmaster or even something like other esports. To be an FPS pro, you need to have thousands of dollars for your computer and peripherals. Your monitor needs to have the highest refresh rate with the lowest latency, and that's going to be hundreds of dollars right there. Your computer needs to run the game at max FPS because every little bit is a competitive advantage. So if you don't have thousands of dollars for that, you're just losing out FPS, which even makes like the most exaggerated lie of entry or gate for Pokemon more accessible than anything else. But going back to VGC players saying, oh, it's impossible if you have a job or kids or anything like that, meet the US Army officer and family man chasing Olympic bobsled gold. Job, kids, and still finds time to try to be the best to represent the country for the Olympics. How an elite skater balances university studies and her Olympic dreams. They are putting more work, more time, more money than anyone in Pokemon VGC while having a day job, while having other responsibilities. This is what it takes to be a top competitor. And as I've been saying for over a decade, even like since before I started YouTube, Pokemon is no different. Everything demands thousands of hours of sacrifice. You need to get your Pokemon legit. You need to follow the rules. There is absolutely no argument. And Pokemon is still the most accessible no matter how you look at it. It's not just a couple people, it's most Olympic athletes, which is why whenever you're seeing a documentary on someone, it's like, yeah, I work 60 hours a week, and then I put the rest into training and my dietitian and my coach and all of this other stuff, and I'm sleeping 3 to 4 hours a day for years just so I can represent my country. That is the passion, that is the dedication that is missing from Pokemon because of how bad it's gotten. You know, here's what some of the Olympians do for their day jobs. Man, I got so caught up debunking every argument that I didn't even finish the chess point. Also, I forgot to mention, proxies are not allowed in TCG. Every argument pro-ginning has immediately lost in Pokemon, but let's see what's going on with chess and other competition. The non-financial expenses. I spent tens of thousands of hours on my chess to the point where I earned the Grandmaster title at the 2015 Australian Masters. Also, deliberate practice. So there's two kinds of chess practice. There's the actual play and tournament play. There's also solving chess puzzles, reading chess books, researching in chess base, analyzing games. That's 10,000 plus hours. Calculation is based on 2 to 3 hours a day since 2002, 4 hours a day on average since 2011, and then he didn't even become a professional until 2012. So this was all on the side. This was while having a job. Olympic athletes aren't allowed to use steroids because they have a day job, and you're not allowed to cheat in any other competitive discipline. Pokemon is no exception. The opportunity cost. For some, there's also an opportunity cost. Had I invested all this time into high-income skills like marketing and sales, I would already be in the situation of never having to work a day in my life again. So that's like the crazy thing. Pokemon players can't even put a few hundred hours into following the rules now, when, again, for any other sport, esport competition, it's thousands of hours of harder work and greater sacrifice. You have to work harder than everyone else to fund it, but that is what these brats do not understand, and that is also why they have not earned Pokemon VGC or competitive Pokemon being a living. And it's just the generic entitlement we see online from millennials and zoomers. These socialists don't even want to work 40 hours a week. So they want to be able to work 30 hours a week, hacking all their Pokemon, and then spend their free time complaining on Twitter about how life is still hard, even though they don't understand how entitled they are. So all of that has completely ruined Pokemon and broken their brains, but now that they've been held accountable just a little bit, like, I don't know if the Pokemon Company is going to do what they need to do. They need to go through massive ban waves. They need to put out a statement. They need to burn it all down and rebuild from the ground up. And I've been saying that since 2016 when WolfeyVGC got caught cheating. But there's too much corruption on the Pokemon Company international side. I think they're actually covering up how bad it is from the Japanese Pokemon Company. So I don't know. I don't know like how deep it goes. I don't know if there's a big enough scandal that can actually completely break Pokemon. Either way, the rats are scared, which is why you need to keep sharing and commenting. It's like, look at this. What I think of Cafotics. So Cafotics busts all these cheaters. Been doing it for years now, all throughout the VGC season, catching regional champions as confirmed cheaters, proving it's impossible to compete in VGC without cheating, no matter what they say. You cannot win unless you hack your Pokemon in VGC. You have to break the rules. That is unfair. You cannot have any competitive integrity. This is why Pokemon is dying. Verlicify, always right. And then catching even the world champion with cheated Pokemon. VGC players are terrified, so again, all they can do is be dishonest. All they can do is gang up and lie together to try to force their narrative. But yeah, here's why I think Cafotics. Clout Chaser. Literally the Oppenheimer of VGC, and is a nobody without PK Hex. And that's on top of other arguments where the Pokemon VGC community has literally said cheating is correct because 1940s Germany. So what is it with VGC players and projecting over war, slavery, and destruction? These kids are unbelievably ill. This is what has ruined Pokemon, but you also need the Pokemon Company to be an outside force that completely crushes all of this entitlement, all of this just nasty behavior, all this cheating. But it's also on the influencers. Every single Poketuber is a bad actor. They defend cheating, they defend this narrative about accessibility. They will only lie for their own gain and greed, and they will just like keep warping the stupidity that has infested most, if not almost all, of the Pokemon community at this point. Why are certain Pokemon VGC legal if they're not obtainable in that game? Pokemon expects so much from their players, ignoring like every other sport and esport. And I really hope that changes. Wait a second. What about bring back national decks? Just last generation. Gen 8. Game Freak is the worst and money hungry because no national decks. Generation 9. Game Freak is the worst and money hungry because national decks. Again, it's this hypocrisy. It's this stupidity that wears on me the most in Pokemon. Because before the whole bring back national decks thing in Generation 7, no one had a problem. Like, you needed Pokemon home transfer. You needed to get Pokemon from other games once the national dex was available for VGC, or just playing Pokemon competitively in general. They removed that, and then everyone got upset about it, and now they're kind of like opening up the decks more. Like, okay, yeah, Game Freak saw everyone get mad, and now they make it to where more transfer Pokemon are allowed inside the game, even if they're not catchable inside the game. But now that's unacceptable. And that's not even allowing the full national dex back in. I don't get it. So yeah, it's just hypocrisy, greed, or just straight up sub 80 IQ at this point. And then other ones, it's insane Pokemon is being so strict about hacked Pokemon. Oh, defending hacking, defending cheating. We also saw this with Munching Orange, asking like, is it really cheating if your Pokemon have possible stats while being hacked? Yes, it is. So, you know, so strict about hacking Pokemon while simultaneously making their official format include Pokemon you cannot obtain in the game or the format it's played in. You absolute hypocrite, covering bring back national dex and saying it's insane to want the national dex, and that a game that 25 million people played and millions of people got DLC for. It's insane that you're required to have that game in the DLC, except you're not. You're not required. It's another lie. It's only lies. That's all these people know. Let's say it's completely impossible to hack inside of Pokemon, and you know that every Pokemon you trade for is going to be legit. People can just make legendary Pokemon mills and Urshifu mills where they make extra profiles and they just like keep resetting and putting in the couple of hours to get an Urshifu, and then they can trade that out for their own competitive Pokemon. Like, you don't have to train the Urshifu, and then you can just get a 6 IV, a competitive ready, anything you want. That would be possible. Same thing for like trading off shiny Pokemon or Breezex or something. There would be a beautiful economy to where like the work you put into training and getting competitive Pokemon can then be rewarded and put elsewhere. It's only a requirement because the cheating is so prevalent and these players have actually never played any of the Pokemon games. They don't even have the most basic resources that only take a couple of hours to get inside of their games. They just, if they need to change the Pokemon, they put into PK Hex, they edit it, which is against the rules, and then they put it back in. And then they also don't own any of the other games that would be needed to do all of this stuff. So yeah, it's bad. It keeps getting worse. There's still like more of a fighting chance than ever, which is why I like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. Get the word out. It's why I'm keeping the pressure on. It's getting insane. Like, we're either going to watch Pokemon die from this or Pokemon be saved from like massive intervention from the Pokemon company. And again, I've given up on all the influencers, so it's an inflection point. I don't know what's going to happen from here, but again, I'm going to keep doing the right thing because I've always have been and always will. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.